Here's the easier part is the arms. And because this is where you'll see the Rule 5 translate a lot more because it's a lot easier to pick up a guy with 2 good pitches and plug him into your bullpen, even if it's as a middle reliever. So let's get into the pitchers, Jack. And I mean, number one, I think this guy's got to be the number 1 pick in the draft. Victor Vodnik. Victor Vodnik, right-handed pitcher with the Braves. If you look at like MLB Pipeline, I think they've got him as the number 9 prospect in their system. I think that's a little high. Obviously, I think the Braves would obviously agree that's a little high because if they valued him at number 9, I think he'd probably be protected. That said, Vodnik is really nasty. Triple digits fastball, a 2.34 ERA in 34 2/3 innings between AA and AAA. Made a seamless transition to triple. If anything, he was better there. 32% strikeout rate as well. Vodnik with a 100-mile-an-hour fastball and a good breaking ball. Like that's a guy that even if he's not ready for high leverage, if that's your 6th inning guy, I think you're in pretty good shape.
I think he's got the chance to immediately be a 7th inning guy.
Yeah.
On a bad team, I think he could be a 7th or 8th inning guy. We'll see, because chances are bad teams don't have good bullpens. Like bad teams equal bad pitching, which equals bad bullpen. How do you get better than a bad bullpen? You take the best guy available that wasn't 40-man protected. And the Braves have a really good bullpen. Like they had too many guys on the books here, and they've got this gluttony of starting pitching. Why would you leave one of your great young starting pitchers susceptible when instead you can leave a 1-inning guy susceptible? And I think if a team is looking for a setup guy in this Rule 5 draft, he should be a no-brainer. And every bad team picking at the top is certainly going to want a possible setup guy.
And let me, you're spot on. Let me make a correction. Change up is the go-to out pitch, and it was pretty darn good last year. But the fastball is what he's going to really lean on pretty hard. And he's 6 foot, so it's from that low release point, good IVB. Just turned 23 years old too, man. Like this guy's young, so he can keep getting better and better. He's flashed a slider a little bit, so you could even throw this guy in the bullpen and hope he continues to develop into maybe something a little bit more than that. So Vodnik, for me, no-brainer. Like you said, I think this guy could blossom into something more in year 1, but has a lot of time to blossom into something more than that. This is not a guy I'd be worried about giving back, and this is a guy that even if he struggles, I'm stashing him in that bullpen and letting him just do mop-up duty until he figures it out because he is so talented.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Kind of the opposite of him in a way is Nick Enright of the Guardians, but another guy that I think could plug in and be a 6th inning guy for a big league bullpen right now. He's with the Guardians, so, he's not going to be a 6th inning guy even in that Guardians bullpen because it's so damn good. But Nick Enright, man, I watched him way back in 2018, I think, when I was with the Newport Gulls in the NECBL, and he was one of the best pitchers out there. The stuff has not really ticked up in terms of what the radar gun would show, but the data on his fastball is incredible. Enright, also the command is elite. 65 2/3 innings, a 2.88 ERA out of the bullpen, 87 Ks, 14 walks. So this guy can really pound the strike zone. What I love is even though the fastball is more 90 to 93, some of the best ride I've seen for a low 90s fastball in the minor leagues, 22 inches on average of induced vertical break. That is elite, elite, elite. Opponents hit just 154, 201, 289. That was their slash line against his fastball, which he threw 60% of the time. He's got that invisible, like we talk about with Nestor Cortez, like we talk about with Suarez, like we talk about with some of these other guys who all sit in the low 90s as well.
Joe Ryan. Yeah.
Joe Ryan as well, low 90s guy. If he sees a slight tick up, then you could start talking about a little bit more high leverage, but the slider's average slider with an elite fastball that clearly guys can't hit at the upper levels and elite command. Enright's a no-brainer pick for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. And the other reason I kind of like him is he's got a somewhat unorthodox arm slot, right? Like the delivery is not cookie cutter at all. And that's what I think the Guardians do a really good job with, because there are a bunch of guys that are like that, kind of on the same timeline as Enright in the Guardian system. Like he finished in AAA, as did Kevin Kelly, who's got a pretty unorthodox way. Like he almost frisbees it. Andrew Miziazik, another guy that, was unorthodox arm slot. So Enright obviously knows how to pitch in his frame and how to get the most out of his arsenal. And I think those guys are pretty hard to find. And I think that a lot of the organizations that are going to be looking for talent in this Rule 5 draft are going to look at that and say, this guy gets it. He's probably very low maintenance. And chances are he's only getting better.
Yep, I totally agree. And that's one of my favorite names in this Rule 5. Another guy, Thad Ward. Thad Ward of the Boston Red Sox, one of the more surprising, I think, guys left exposed as well. Ward was really solid in the Arizona Fall League. He had a couple outings out there where he was just downright disgusting. He had 7 Ks and 4 2/3 in his first start out there. Then had a couple other spurts of 3 innings, 2 innings, 3 innings where he didn't give up any runs. I think he had 2 outings where he gave up a pair of runs and then finished with 5 scoreless. Strikes out a ton of dudes. 2 of his last 4 starts in Double-A to end the season, he punched out 10 over 5 innings. The thing with Thad Ward, and I think why he was left unprotected, is he's going to be 26 years old this coming season. And he really only has one pitch I truly like, and it's that slider. I think everything else is fighting to be average. The slider is plus. It's wipeout. And that's how he's been able to rack up the Ks. But he has an assortment of other pitches that are all fighting to be average. 52 of his 87 strikeouts in the regular season came on his slider. The 4-seamer is not great. The sinker is okay. That's kind of the risk here. But as we know, and as you know, Jack, you can be a good big league reliever with one pitch. And I think Thad Ward's going to be one of the first arms off the board because of that slider, because of what he showed in the Fall League, which is even crazier. Why would you send him to the Fall League to just show off even more to teams that have a ton of personnel there? It was almost like an audition for other teams after a strong finish to the year. And he auditioned for other teams and auditioned well. I think Thad Ward's gone.
Yeah, I think Thad Ward is gone as well. But what I will say is, maybe that was the last chance for the Red Sox to see what they've got from Thad Ward. You know what I mean?
What else would you want from him then?
I don't know. He only threw 51 1/3 innings this year, not counting the Fall League.
And then he goes to the Fall League, throws 12 2/3, and pitches to 2.84 and punches out 15.
Yeah.
Like, I guess whatever they saw there, maybe it was the other pitches. They just said, hey, we feel good about not protecting this guy.
Yeah. Well, and they knew they were going to sign Chris Martin to 8.5 annually. So,
yeah. You know how we feel about those who listen to the Just Baseball show would know how we feel about the Red Sox. The call-up, we don't talk about them as much, but I think Thad Ward's gone, though, with that slider. I do agree, only 51 1/3 innings, mostly between high A and Double-A, no Triple-A experience. But when you had 66 Ks, 19 walks, and then you go to the Fall League and continue to strike guys out, I think a team's going to take him.
Yeah.
A guy that was surprisingly left off on the Marlins side was Anthony Maldonado. And Maldonado got better as the year went on. He has really good stuff. 3.03 ERA in 62 1/3 innings between double and triple, 86 Ks, 20 walks. Also got the bump up to triple. And in 20 2/3 innings, a 1.74 ERA in triple. His slider, I think, is one of the best in the minor leagues. Whether you're a lefty, whether you're a righty, and Maldonado's a righty, but whether you're a lefty or righty hitter, he back legs you or he'll sweep away from you, and it's nasty. 126, 175, 218 slash line against that slider this year with a 57% K rate. Fastball is at least big league average as well at 93 to 95. With that fastball and slider combination, I'm really surprised the Marlins didn't add him because they need bullpen help. I think Maldonado could plug right in. For whatever reason, they don't. That's a name I'd be surprised if he wasn't taken, but there's a lot of other arms that could be interesting. You think Maldonado gets taken?
I do. He's a big dude that throws like a big dude. And the reason why I truly think he gets taken and why I would draft him in the first round of this is because he has one of the best like forearm tattoo half sleeve concepts.
He does.
It's sick. It's sick. So I'm kind of all about that. Like big, strong guy that has that like Illuminati eye right under the elbow. I'm all about it, especially on the glove arm where you're leading with that and you're just staring deep into the soul of the hitter. And it's like, yes, I have a way cooler tat sleeve than you.
He's got the closer, like kind of attitude to him and look to him. No, to kind of piggyback off that point, and I think he could blossom into a high leverage guy at the big league level eventually. Yeah.
What do you think of tattoos? You like tattoos?
Personally, I don't plan on getting one, but if I have to, I will. Did lose a bet, might have to.
347.
Yeah, that's for the Just Baseball show as well. Elvis Alvarado, a name that may not be as popular amongst like fans and people trying to crash course the Rule 5 draft, but Jack, we kind of stumbled upon him as we were doing the research before the episode, and I'm intrigued. 23 years old, converted position player when he was signed as an international free agent, converted kind of early and has been kind of building up his workload since. Has bounced around from Washington to Seattle, then back to Washington, then back to Seattle. I think I don't even know what his whole story is, but he was nasty last year. Has touched 101 on the gun. So starting to figure it out as a pitcher, still 23 years old, shown a fastball and a slider that are really good. Of course, that fastball touching 101, average 97.5, slider average 89 miles an hour, and even flashed a changeup a little bit. Didn't pitch much above AA. So that's going to be, it hasn't pitched above AA, 22 and 2/3 innings in double, though, put up some good numbers there. This is somebody that I think with the data, a team's going to take a chance. I think it's possible with the stuff that he has and as one of the younger guys in this group.
Yeah, so he went Washington to Seattle, and then to Detroit. And he was in Detroit this past year. And he had a 1.86 in high A in 23 appearances, is like their closer in West Michigan. Then he goes to double A, and the ERA wasn't that good. He had 10 earned runs in 22 and 2/3, so an ERA just under 4. But 23 punch outs, 7 walks in 22 and 2/3 innings. I would maybe not pull the trigger here because he struggled in double and he hasn't proven that he can be successful at a level above high A. That I think that's the only thing really holding me back here.
He might have the best stuff though. So I'm with you, but he might have the best stuff. So that could be a draft and stash guy. I agree. It's going to be really interesting to see. Because conventional thinking would be like, yeah, he struggled a bit in double. He's still far off, doesn't have that much of a track record. This is going to kind of tell us, I think, how teams are approaching the Rule 5 draft moving forward. Because if he does get taken, I think that shows that they're willing to kind of bump him up and be aggressive and really believe in the pitch data. So that's a name that I wanted to float just because it's intriguing. He touches 101 with a wipeout slider. So we'll see what happens there.
I think later rounds, somebody could take this guy, and then you place him on waivers and see if he can clear. Like, he is a $50,000. Let's see if we can keep him in our system.
That'd be fun. I'm curious to see how that goes. So that's why I'm excited. I'm excited to see these kind of guys and see what happens. I'm sure the Tigers are very much hoping that he doesn't get taken because I think they're very excited about what he can do. It was hard to justify putting him on the 40-man, obviously, with all the prospects that they have. And, they've got their own kind of logjam in some ways. Yeah. Antoine Kelly's a popular name, but I think maybe a little too popular. The stuff is crazy. A lefty that could be draft and stash, just turned 23 a day ago. Was traded over from Milwaukee to Texas, correct?
Yeah. But
has had some shoulder issues. When he's right, it's fastball, slider, both are plus, and could be a lefty reliever for you. But he's a guy that really struggled with command in 18 and 2/3 double A innings. So he seems like he's being discussed as a slam dunk with the mid-90s fastball, wipeout slider as a lefty, and this is a pretty big risk. I guess it's worth trying because who cares? It's $50,000, right? Because I would assume that the Rangers would buy him back. So you could draft him and try, see if he throws strikes and see how it goes. But he's definitely a high risk, high reward guy relative to some of the others.
Yeah. And the only thing that really scares me is the command and the lack of proximity, right? Like, he really, really stunk it up in Double A after the trade. So are you willing to try that guy at the major league level? I think the answer is no. Yeah. I'd be really shocked if Antoine Kelly went.
Well, I'll tell you this, would you rather have Antoine Kelly or would you rather have Jose Lopez, another lefty who is a bullpen guy with great stuff, fastball, slider, that it would be aggressive too, right? Like, he briefly pitched in AAA, but put up great numbers in double. Like, who would you rather take in the Rule 5 for your team, Antoine Kelly or Jose Lopez?
I'd rather have Jose Lopez because he's a bullpen piece.
Thick king at 6 foot, 271 pounds.
Yeah, beast.
Struck out 38% of batters last year. Fastball up to the upper 90s, sits at 95. Slider, we were laughing when we saw the slider. Yeah. I mean, the amount of break that pitch has. You want to know what opponents hit against his slider this past year. 101, 184, 112 slash line.
Oh,
In 89 at bats, 98 plate appearances, 9 for 89 with 1 extra base hit, 63 Ks, and 7 walks against that slider.
dude.
Throw that in a bullpen and see what the hell happens.
Dude. Yeah. Like, absolutely put that in a bullpen.
Lefties, even more just dreadful. Just even more dreadful. So he could be a lefty guy for you, but I think with his stuff, he can get righties out too.
And those numbers are worth the pick alone.
Yeah. 100%. I like that guy's getting outs at the big league level with that stuff. I don't know if he becomes a human rain delay and walks guys, but 99 strikeouts, 38 walks. It's not like command has been a disaster. Get some ground balls too. So this is a guy that I think will definitely be taken.
Yeah. I'm in.
Few more names. Jaden Murray traded from the Rays to the Astros in that 3-team Mancini deal. I was surprised to see Murray not get protected. He's high floor, lower ceiling. He's a starter. Most of the guys we're talking about are bullpen arms, but he's 25 years old. He's put up some really good numbers, through AA, struggled in 1 start in AAA last year. But I think this guy can pitch, man. And I think he could be a swingman. Has a ceiling of a 5. And one of the few guys that I think has that starter's ability, a good slider, a sneaky, decent fastball, can mix in an average changeup and good command. If a team really has a wide open spot in the rotation, and again, I'm looking at the Nationals, I'm using them as a comparison. Like I would throw Jaden Murray in there and see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, it can't get any worse than whatever you were running out like in Yohan Adon, right?
Yeah. I think he's better than Yohan Adon, no doubt about it.
Yeah. So I think if the right team comes across Jaden Murray, not in the first round, but like the rounds ensuing, you should take a firm look at your starting rotation and say, are we running guys out there as like sacrificial lambs? Because if so, it might be worth the ticket on Jaden Murray.
Adon was legitimately a sacrificial lamb.
Yeah, like they ran him out there to get lit up.
The Athletics, like I'd love to see the A's take this guy and throw him out there and see how he does. Like if he's a low 4s ERA guy, it's solid. You just pick that up for 100K, right? And I think there's a potential that he could be that with the fastball shape and the slider and the overall command. If he can develop that changeup a little further, I definitely think he can be a 5-starter.
Yeah.
You got some names that you want to fly through as well, and then we'll try and just mention in passing some of the other possible names. But I know you got some that you want to discuss.
Like just a couple and guys that I got to watch on an everyday basis. 2 starting pitchers, Cody Bolton and Osvaldo Bido, I think are ready for a major league audition. Bido is creeping up to 98, 99 with his fastball. And he's got a decent slider and a decent changeup. He's a 3-pitch guy. Command would escape him entirely sometimes, but when he was right, like he was pounding the strike zone with upper 90s fastballs and good breaking stuff, and he was working so quickly. Bolton, I think, is a guy that should go. And I was frankly shocked that the Pirates didn't protect Cody Bolton. This was a guy that, was really talented for them, one of their top pitching prospects, and then tore his ACL. And he came back from that. They monitored his innings closely this year, and he was a swingman in Indy. I think that is a guy that could very well be a major league swingman this coming year. So I was shocked that the Pirates didn't look at him as that. I hope another team does look at him as that.
There's just so many names, man. It just shows you like how many notable guys that.
Shit, my guy Tirso Ornelas.
Yeah, Tirso, like that is legitimately the Akil Baddoo adjacent, I think, because Tirso's got juice and he's a sneaky athlete, but I would love to see him get picked. Eric Miller as well, like he really struggled in AAA in a short stint, but really good numbers in AA. He's a lefty. He's got the fastball that's got high velo, slider change. You think Miller gets taken? He's a tough one. I think he does.
I think he does probably.
I agree, and that's a guy that you're hoping blossoms into a starter. But if you want to stash him as that lefty middle reliever, you can do that, and I think there's a lot of value to that.
I think if a guy is Rule 5 eligible, you don't owe him like a certain number of innings. Like you don't owe Eric Miller a spot in your starting rotation on an opening day. Like he's just looking for an MLB opportunity now. I think that He was what? The pipeline had him at 7 in the Phillies system, 6 or 7 in the Phillies system. If you're Rule 5 eligible, like I don't think you factor into many teams' starting rotation thoughts. But again, Eric Miller could be like the Jaden Murray conversation where it might be better to try that than run on a sacrificial lamb.
And he's a 24-year-old, right? Like he could be that spot starter, and if he earns it, can blossom from there. I think the data on the changeup's pretty good. He struggled with the command of the fastball and slider, but if that gets a little bit better, this guy could definitely. I think he's got even more upside than Murray. I think he could be a 4 if it all comes together. Which, if you get a chance to draft a guy in the Rule 5 that could be a 4, yeah. The more I think about it, Miller seems like a no-brainer, even with the limited experience above AA. A name that you floated, Jack, and I'm not even going to try to say it. The Guardians guy.
Oh, Misiasic, Andrew Misiasic,
yeah,
the lefty.
Yeah, the lefty.
Yeah, Misiasic. I like Misiasic, and Misiasic is a good lefty relief option. The Guardians just like they spawn these guys. And we always talk about their starting pitching because those are the guys that get the glitz and the glam. But the Rule 5, I think, is when the minor league bullpens come to shine. They come to show out. And Misiasic was kind of the closer in AA and AAA. And Misiasic is a guy, I think he was mid-90s, if I'm remembering correctly. And he's got decent secondary stuff, and he is a zone pounder. So it's a guy like that. It's a guy with that kind of pedigree that could be fun.
Look, the data's strong, and a lefty who gets outs and held left-handed hitters to a 476 OPS while striking out 37% of them, that'll play. So this is another lefty that if a team really likes what they see, it's pretty easy to justify plugging that guy in the bullpen.
13 Ks per 9 too.
Yeah, that plays. That absolutely plays. Doesn't walk a ton of guys. Guardians just have too many dudes. Any other names that you want to hit on before we wrap up?
I don't know. Like, obviously, there's going to be more names that get picked. We're like, oh, shit, we should have talked about them. But
anybody that, like, you really would lose sleep over not talking about, like Lucas Erceg is a big power arm, but when we're looking at converted infielder, converted bat that has great stuff, but still trying to hone in on it and throw more strikes, like Erceg, when we're talking about all these other guys, like I don't know if Erceg gets taken because look at all these other dudes. Like, there's so many good arms.
No, I don't know. And there are guys that, I wouldn't be dumbfounded if they were taken. You know what I mean? These bats that we know can be good when they're perfectly on, but haven't been perfectly on for a while. Like, it's the Indy scenario, right? The Pirates scenario. Mason Martin is Rule 5 eligible. I really don't think Mason Martin's getting taken because of the strikeout concerns, but the guy does have like 40 homer potential because he's built like a bodybuilder and he can hit balls 490 feet in the Florida swamps, like the most humid environment ever. Like he's got that much power. So I don't think those types of guys are getting taken. And that's the thing. Feels like every organization has those types of guys. They have those guys that are your classic shortstop, but not ready to be a major league shortstop, or your classic power hitting first base corner outfield guy who's not ready to be a major league power hitting first baseman corner outfield guy. So there are some decent Rule 5 eligible guys. I think Lucan Baker again is Rule 5 eligible.
He's always Rule 5 eligible.
Yeah, but again, like you don't want
a clogger. You don't want a clogger. Like, it's that simple. You don't want the clogger at first for the most part. So,
and I do think that we hit the stereotype of player that's going to get taken, which is utility guy that is low risk offensively.
I'm really excited to talk about the guys that, we didn't hit on and see why, kind of evaluate why they got taken and dive into that. So we'll have we'll be primed for the Rule 5 recap, which we're extremely excited to do. You can look forward to that at the end of the week as well, right after the Rule 5 draft. And also you have the Joey Loperfido interview with the Astros, who is a top 10 prospect in that system. And you'll see it. He'll be consensus top 10 very, very soon as outlets start to update their systems. Really good conversation, in-person interview with Loperfido. It was a lot of fun to do that as well. So any final thoughts, Jack, as we wrap this Rule 5 preview up?
I don't think so. This was fun. I'm excited for this Rule 5 draft. It's more baseball content.
I'm pumped, man. I'm pumped. In the middle of the winter meetings, a lot of action. Go check out the Just Baseball show for all of the discussion on the big free agent moves and all the big trades that we're going to probably see in the next week or so. But we'll have you for that Rule 5 recap very soon. As always, thank you for listening. Subscribe to the Call Up YouTube to keep up with all of the other content there, and we'll talk to you very soon.